Welcome viewers once again to another live session here on my channel. Today actually marks International Day for Poverty, so I decided to discuss something concerning poverty with you guys on the channel today. But first of all, if it is your first time watching a live video or watching any of my videos, I'd like to say welcome to my channel. If you are a returning viewer, I'd like to say thank you very much for supporting the channel. Don't forget to share, comment, like. Now, 17th of October is International Day of Poverty. The day that's actually set aside to discuss and talk about poverty. The question here is that can poverty actually be eradicated in the world? In today's live session, I'm going to talk that of the African people or of the African continent. We're going to first of all talk about what has caused some of these problems when it comes to poverty. So first, we're going to talk about colonial legacy. Can one say that colonial legacy has been one of the factors that has basically affected our people, had also lead to some level of poverty in some parts of Africa? Would one say that colonial, in quote, alleged exploitation has also been a cause or one of the causes of poverty in our continent? Now, if you talk about colonial legacy, you're talking about slave trade as well. In fact, some Africans believe that the people who had the skills and the will to help push Africa to that level, as a matter of fact, were the ones that were taken away to work far away from Africa to provide for other continents. Now, would you say that ever since this particular colonial and the slave trade issue ended, it has been a long time. So why have we not been able to patch up as a people to eradicate poverty, and we still have poverty in the continent? Right. Now, let's talk about economic diversification. You realize that this continent is blessed with a lot of resources. Africa is blessed. Africa is a rich continent when it comes to natural resources, right? Yeah, from gold, diamond, cobalt. I mean, everything that you can talk about, including crude oil as well. But one would say that all these minerals that we have basically are normally managed by these Europeans and American big multinational corporations. We are yet to see big multinational corporations from Africa operating and actually taking charge, and as a matter of fact, um, managing most of our resources. If you take agriculture, for example, most part of Africa has arable lands. The greater portion or proportion of the world's most arable land, you can find it in on this continent, Africa. So now, why have this kind of problem of poverty actually raging in certain parts of Africa? Join me, let's discuss this issue. You can leave your comment, but make sure your comment is air friendly. Your comment does not, as a matter of fact, violate the comment guidelines of the platform and does not also offend other people. Right. So now let's look at another point here. Still talking about economic diversification. Is it because most of the things that we produce here in Africa, or most of our economic activities, are more to do with the primary sector, talking about the extractive industry, agriculture, and so on and so forth? But the point is, these are commodities that we do export, and as a matter of fact, we make some money out of it. Does it mean that when we take this natural resources outside to sell them, we don't get enough to build our countries? Now let's talk about inadequate infrastructure. Well, the question of inadequate infrastructure is that let's do the why analysis. Why do we have inadequate infrastructure? Why you're talking of poor transportation, you're talking of energy issues, communication, etc. Right? If you think of poor transportation, you're talking about the fact that our means of transport here doesn't actually reach up to Europe and America. They have more advanced transportation system, trams, trains, modern ferries, etc. So why are all these factors in place? Poor transportation, energy, communication networks. Why are all these things hindering our progress? And then poverty, as a matter of fact, can be found in some parts of Africa. I'm not saying Africa. Africa is never poor. Africa is rich in minerals, rich in, the soil itself. My research or my fact finding had found out that the greater portion of the world's arable land can be found in Africa. Right. So, as we celebrate International Day for Eradication of Poverty, let's share ideas on how we can eradicate poverty on this continent. There are some parts of the continent where you can have a lot of, rich people as well, but there is poverty everywhere in the world. There's poverty everywhere in the world. But let's find a way because we're gonna have a society where everybody is rich. You can find places where there are people who are also poor as well. So let's talk about the African side of it. Why inadequate infrastructure? Why do we have inadequate infrastructure? Poor transportation, energy, communication, networks, etc. But even with communication, I would say that with the heralding of the coming of the internet, communication has improved well and very much in Africa and keeps improving. A lot more people are using the internet. The internet penetration keeps growing and so on and so forth. And even telephone and mobile services are also growing. For example, in countries like Ghana, Nigeria, etc., you can use your phone to do transactions, which I think is an improvement in how we transact business and how we communicate. Now let's look at another point here: corruption, widespread corruption. Do we really have anything like corruption in Africa? Leave a comment. Let me know. I don't want to talk more about that topic, so we can leave a comment there. Now let's talk about also debt burden, high external debt servicing. A lot of African countries, or some African countries, normally go get loans and all that, credit facilities from the advanced countries and have to service them. So we want to say that these are also some of the factors that basically affect our efforts to actually eradicate and reduce poverty on the continent. Let me know which country you are in. Let me know the debt burden of your country, and how. Let me know how your country is overcoming some of these factors that I've talked about, and how they are reaching out to eradicating poverty from the world. Now let's talk about social factors. Let's talk about limited access to education, poor education, quality, and accessibility. As a matter of fact, fine education is the key to every economy because it develops the human resource. So, what in what ways do you think we can, as a matter of fact, do to improve educational standards in terms of quality and accessibility to reduce poverty? I think education basically is important, just like any other thing on earth. So, if you educate people, you open up your economy because you have skilled people who can work, and then productivity will increase as well. Right. So, what are some of the things that we can do in Africa to increase access to education, increase the quality of education, and reduce poverty? The next thing I'm going to talk about is healthcare challenges. can think of inadequate healthcare systems, high disease burdens, and all that reducing productivity and all that. But for healthcare, you can see African countries are improving step by step. Step by step, African countries are improving. Every now and then, you watch news across Africa, and new hospitals are being built and all that. Right. So I think in that way, we are also moving forward a bit, and we're beginning to have state of the art hospitals as well in Africa. But I think if you have any idea as to how we can also improve that, you can leave a comment there. We're celebrating International Day of Poverty Eradication. Let's share our thoughts. Let me know what you think about this topic. Leave a comment. We are live right here on my channel. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your comments. Let me know what you think about the topic we are discussing right now. Of course, this channel is here to educate, entertain, and inform you as well. So join me live here. Let's discuss this very important issue. Join me right now. I'm waiting for your comments. Hit the subscribe button and subscribe if it is your first time. Let me know where you're watching me from. Of course, your thoughts. Now, so let's look at another issue here. Let's look at another issue. Let's look at population growth. Has population growth or is population growth one of the factors or one of the issues that has basically become a burden and a problem as in eradicating poverty? Because population growth also puts pressure on resources and infrastructure as well. Right. So what can we do as a people to regulate population growth? But there's one thing you should know: the African, as a matter of fact, believes in procreation. You can have people who have about 10 children. Maybe in certain cultures, when you have 10 children, for example, in my country, in the olden days, are what they call the Bedouin. That is the 10th born goat or something like that. You have to, celebrate the fact that you've been able to give birth to about 10 children and all that. But then you realize that gradually these things are also changing. Now you hardly see people giving birth to plenty children because now you will need much more resources to take care of a larger family, right? So I think population growth issues are actually being resolved gradually. It isn't like first where people give birth to numerous children and can't take care of them. Because now even paying school fees, rent and all that, and having more children would actually not augur well for you. So I think now there has been some changes in our attitude towards giving birth to a lot of children. And this actually, basically, if well managed, Africa is also going to get to that level. But I think in the olden days, some also had these large families to serve as labor pool to help, the family, I mean, do their businesses like farming, fishing, etc. But now I think these are changing. A lot more people are going to school, and a lot more people are also beginning to see the need to have smaller families in Africa. Now let's talk about cultural barriers, traditional practices, cultural norms. How have they limited opportunities? How have they affected, issues concerning poverty? And whether they have also had any contribution in eradicating poverty? Let me know your comment on that. Let me know what you think about that. What are some of the cultural practices, traditional practices that you think um, have contributed to eradicating poverty in Africa? Talking about policies, implementation of policies. I mean, democratic governance, etc., and so on and so forth. Have this in any way also affected poverty too much to some extent? Or has this in a way also helped in eradicating poverty? Let me see your comment on the comment section. Let me know whether these governance systems over the past years is helping to improve and reduce uh, poverty, conflict, and instability. I think conflicts are also some of a thing that you can talk about when it comes to poverty issues. But I think gradually, one day, we are all hoping and praying that there will be no conflict or instability in any part of the world. Now, let's look at resource management. Are we managing our resources very well? Are we allocating our resources in the right direction, especially our natural resources? Like I said earlier on, most of these resources are managed by European, American, Australian, Chinese, or Asian multinationals. So you realize that these people come in here, invest into our natural resources, and then make millions, billions out of our resources. But I think gradually Africa is also getting there. There are a lot of efforts being put in place to ensure that Africans are able to manage our own natural resources to, eradicate and improve the standards of living, eradicate poverty and improve the standards of living. Let's talk about dependence on foreign aid. Africans over reliance on external assistance, right? And is this actually undermining self-sufficiency? Because when we talk of self-sufficiency, I'm not sure any country on this in this world is too self-sufficient. In one way or the other, you need to depend on another, maybe trade with another country, either export or import. So I think this is not the factor. But then let me know your comment if you think there are any issues that you want to basically, let all of us learn and know. Now let's talk about another thing. I'm going to talk about let's talk about another thing. Let's talk about environmental factors, climate change. I think so far in Africa, issues like flooding hasn't been that huge. Droughts, I think efforts are in place to curb some of these things, but I think more needs to be done to reduce flooding, drought, etc. And as a matter of fact, its impact on agriculture and livelihood. Let's talk about natural resource depletion. Our natural resources being over exploited. Is there an issue of over exploitation of our natural resources and sustainability? I think as Africans and as a people, we are gradually becoming conscious of preserving our natural resources. If you go to some of the universities, we have courses in natural resources where people are being trained here and there, right? So land degradation, soil erosion, deforestation, etc. In certain countries, especially in Ghana, for example, there has been the issue of what we call the galamsey, the illegal mining that's going on. Polluting waters and I mean water bodies, streams, rivers, etc. All these things are being tackled. So I think on the day like this that we are actually celebrating International Day for Eradication Poverty, I'd like to say kudos to all the Africans who are putting in efforts to ensure that land degradation, climate change, depletion of natural resources is tackled so that Africa will continue to be the Zion that we all know. Let's talk about water scarcity. Access to clean water is also another issue. But you realize that Africans are gradually also improving on access to water, the quality of water, and so on and so forth. Right. So I think we are getting somewhere, right? But to sum it all, let me ask this question before we go. You can still leave a comment even after this live streaming. Historical factors. Have slavery and exploitation affected our ability to be highly prosperous and to be a content without poor people? Well, can you talk about the fact that we were exploited allegedly? And has this had lasting economic and social impact on us? Can you talk about the legacy of colonialism? Is it still having influence on us economically and socially? Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and subscribe. Don't forget to comment, share, and like. Today's edition for returning back to watch my video. Don't forget to comment, share, and like. And watch out for more of such live discussions we're going to be having on my channel. Thank you very much for watching.